I have a lot of toppers that I love. So canned pumpkin is a great one, because that's
Yeah.
already been pureed and processed. Not pumpkin pie, mixed pumpkin. Blueberries and fresh organic fruits, no grapes, no raisins, but otherwise those are great for them. I love sardines. They're nice and soft. It's got little tiny bones in there, so you're getting some calcium. Most dogs absolutely love them. Great source of omega-3s. I usually buy the sardines in water. You could get the ones in oil. You can still be fine. I use a lot of steamed or sauteed mushrooms. I love mushrooms sauteed in coconut oil. And then for plant material, you can feed it steamed or you can run it through your food processor. But dogs don't have as much of the enzyme cellulase, which breaks down the cell wall of plant material. So they're not as good at breaking that down. They can do it, but they're not as good. So if we process the veggies in some way for them, whether that's pureeing them, steaming them, chopping them up real fine, that is going to help them actually get those nutrients out. And we actually have some really good studies that show that like dark leafy greens, they actually are more nutritious after they're steamed than they are raw.
Yep.
We get more nutrition out of them. That's human as well as pet. So don't be afraid of that. So if you're making, let's say you're steaming broccoli for dinner for yourself, save some, give it to your dog, throw it on top of his food. He might like it, he might not like it. You got to try different things and see what they like.
So, based on your experience over 30 years in the veterinarian field, would you say it's safe to say that a dog that's eating a primarily kibble diet is probably going through chronic dehydration, at least a mild amount?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A dog who is fed only kibble is running around in a chronic state of dehydration because the kibble needs moisture to be digested. And where is that moisture coming from? Well, if they're not a big drinker, that moisture is coming from their body cells. And that's not good.
Most kibbles are extruded and cooked at extreme high temperatures, which also removes most of that moisture, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but dogs were designed to get their moisture from their food for the most part. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So when we compare kibble, it's going to have 6 to 8% moisture versus a raw or gently cooked diet is going to have anywhere from 72 to 85% moisture. That's a huge difference. And a lot of people will say to me, well, I add water to the kibble. You have to add a lot of water to get from 6% to 80%. That's huge. There's an old myth that you can't feed raw and kibble in the same bowl because they digest at different rates and you'll screw things up and
Mm.
blah, blah, blah. That's not true. So you can add some pre-made raw or some, if you're having chicken for dinner and you want to put a little chicken breast, raw or cooked, on top of the food, feel free. Don't go heavy on the skin and don't ever use the grease drippings from any cooked meats on your dog's food. That's a surefire way to get pancreatitis. Pancreatitis is an inflammatory problem. It's another whole segment, but it is not really related to feeding too many fats. You can feed a very high fat meal. It's related to cooked fats that are now rancid and cause a lot of inflammation in the body. So no drippings, no bacon drippings, no. And I would highly recommend not feeding your dogs bacon, sausage, and ham. Pork is fine, like pork tenderloin. That's nice and lean. That's great. But the ones that have nitrates in them or been smoked are not as good. So we see a much healthier microbiome on a meat-based, high moisture diet versus a high carbohydrate diet. So the changes in the microbiome, there's something called the gut-brain axis, and those bacteria that are in your gut are communicating with your cells that are communicating with the brain. And when we don't provide good nutrition and we don't have a healthy gut microbiome, then the brain is off kilter as well. When you're feeding whole foods, the body recognizes it as something natural, and the body will take what it needs and use it, and then it just kind of spits out the excess. With vitamin mineral supplements that are added into the food first, like you said, if they're synthetic, the body does not recognize that as something natural. And so the body reacts to it. And that is a cause of a lot of allergies when we're feeding synthetic things. When we have dyes added to the food, which are carcinogenic, by the way. So dyes being added to the food, preservatives that are added into the food to make it shelf stable. Some of these kibble companies will proudly tell you that their food is shelf stable for 25 years. That's like feeding your dog plastic. Like, who wants something that's shelf stable for 25 years? I guess if you live somewhere where you absolutely can't get anything, I don't know. I can't think of a good reason to do that.